There we go, we're live.
All right.
Woo!
What are we talking about?
Monday night, Novak News. You've got Mr. and Mrs. Novak here with you. And we're in for some fun tonight. We've got one of the highest energy agents I can think of. We've got Mark Cantwell
Yes.
from PRD all the way from sunny Newcastle.
Legendary.
Guys.
How are you?
Excited.
Hey, I'm used to seeing you in your Lycra.
Yeah. Well, I've got some sporty sort of top, and I got my skulls on underneath, and I didn't even know.
Oh,
Don't you wear ties in Newcastle?
But you know what? I'm sick of people saying that you're either white collar or blue collar, so I said I'm going round collar.
gotta go the V-neck.
How funny. We're going to just move in a little bit closer here. We're allowed to. We don't need to social distance. We're husband and wife. Hey, Mark, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks to everyone, Newcastle, Sydney, Australia-wide. What a great thing this is that we're on right now. Your news is like the most up-to-the-minute news in Australian real estate. So, guys, you've got to share this stuff even while we're doing it live. Hope the audio's okay. I've got the special speaker up there. We've got a camera that's zoomable.
We're good. So we've got 7 News, 9 News, 10 News, ABC News, and we've got Novak News.
It's good news.
Stuck with Novak and leave it at that.
Yeah, that's it. But no, guys, you're in for a treat tonight. So we've asked Mark Cantwell to come on with us because we seem to be seeing a bit of a trend happening here, Mark.
Yes, it's real.
Now,
It's real.
I know myself, we have a common client, okay? And I know myself that those guys have sold here on the Northern Beaches and they're moving to sunny Newcastle. But
That's right. We do actually. That's a common client. That's real. That actually happened.
True story. But you know what? We're hearing that quite a lot. And it's not just that people are flocking to Newcastle, but we're seeing people obviously are flocking from the CBD and the eastern suburbs over to the Northern Beaches and then further north up the coast as well. What's going on?
Well, I think that the phenomenon is happening at the moment because there's a compounding effect. One of the key ones that's driving it is that national and international employers with expensive office space in Sydney that previously required people to clock in, clock out at a certain time, do that that transport, whether it was public transport, driving to town, whatever, that mundane rat race. They used to think that that was the best way to do business because it was conventional. And then this thing came along, this COVID thing, and everyone was forced to see what it was like not working from the office. Now that you can work remotely, people are saying, why would I live 1 hour commute from work, paying exorbitant rates of parking, putting emissions into the air, being cranky by the time I get there every day, when I can live in a place where there's 9 beaches within walking distance, no traffic, distancing's a lot easier, affordable cost of living. I can have a mansion for the price of my smaller home, and I'm literally foot distance to the beach. And that is probably the key driver on top of climate and geography and jobs and all that sort of stuff. But I think that one change with employers being flexible about where you work from has been the critical one that's the straw that's broken the camel's back and increased the intrastate migration.
It's true, right? It's true.
Yeah, look, Lisa keeps looking at me, so I have to talk.
You don't have to. You can just sit here.
No,
it's
but
fine.
they're feeling the pressure. Something that's, and I think this is important for everyone that's watching to understand, this is affecting the biggest asset class in the country. It's changing the way people are making money or potentially losing money on the trends that we're seeing in the property market at the moment. So if everyone's heading in one direction and that's going to be fabulously profitable, people want to know where that direction is. And if people are leaving from an area, people also want to know what that area is as well. So I think that, look, we're always optimistic. We're always talking the property market up. We're always talking about how good Northern Beaches is. You're always talking about how good Newcastle is. But what's really important is, yes, we're always talking our burbs up, but the change of what people are doing. And I think you're right in what you said, Mark.
Yeah.
It's all being underpinned with the work philosophy. People actually had 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week, and they centralized their lifestyle and family all around that 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Now, that 40 hours a week has actually changed, where majority of employers have turned around and said, look, it's acceptable, stay home and it's acceptable. I think people now are permanently making arrangements around that, saying, well, my employer, I think it was a friend of mine works for Amazon.
Yeah.
And he was telling me on Saturday night, they've just said, don't come to work ever again.
You're never coming back.
You're not coming
into
back.
the work. You're never coming back into the workplace.
Yeah.
Go work from wherever you like.
If you're getting that message given to you by your employer, I think that's really unleashing or really giving a lot of people a lot of freedom to live where the hell they actually wanted to live.
Yeah.
And not have to make those considerations around transport and offices and stuff like that.
100%. But Mark, I want to know what's going on. Mark, we'll call you Mark K. What's Kenny K? What's going on there up in Newcastle? Like, are you guys seeing, is there a shortage of stock that's coming to market? Is it selling, above price guide? Is it just going through the roof? What's going on there?
Yeah, they're really good questions, Lisa. I think there's been a replacement of stock. It's been like a cycling through. Imagine like a sporting team with, players that have sort of been on for a while. They're getting a little bit tired and then they go out, or they take a deal and they end up somewhere else. And actually, I just came up with that live then, but it's actually fairly relevant when you think about it. We've had stock that was on pre-COVID. We had a bumper month in March. COVID sort of got announced during March. That was kind of where it became real. We were in Thailand on our charity ride, and it's like, are we going to get back? So early March, we were all trying to get back to Australia. We did our safety distancing and whatever else. We ran options on the last week that you could run options, and we do midweek in rooms as the majority based on higher clearance rates, more control of the environment, better feedback from buyers and vendors, and the friendly auction system. And Curly ran 10 auctions or thereabouts for us, and I think we cleared 100% on about the 20th of March, or whenever the last one you could run was.
Yeah.
It was the second one we did in March. The first one was like 88 or 91% or something like that, some other large number. And then it went from, say, 44 unconditional sales in residential alone in March to 7 sales in April. But it was about, let's wait and see what happens. It was sort of like a rabbit in the headlights situation. We then re-established a lot of stuff internally. I sort of said, great, as a sort of innovation-based, vision-based leader, I was excited. The team bolted in more than ever, aligned more than ever. And we put into a place a lot of the things that we thought were better for consumers anyway, around virtual inspections and some of the way that we contact people and they contact us, and getting a lot more qualification done beforehand. We went from 7 sales to 13 sales in May, not many there either. June, we went to 28. We were aiming for 30. July, we went to 36, 38. We ended up at 40 sales, I think, in July, comparing to that where we're at to 40 sales, and we'll go past 40 again this month. So I look at what's happened. The world has changed so dramatically, but the volume is back, and the people that are back are into the market. I mean, we already had a Royal Commission in 18. People forget about that. Royal Commission, 2 state elections. That was enough to just knock the wind right out of that sort of unprecedented 10-year growth period we had in Sydney and Melbourne, which drives media. 66% of Australia's properties dollar volume is out of Sydney and Melbourne, being capital cities and transactional volume and where the media is driven from. When they sneeze, we all catch a cold, to use a pun at the moment, but they cooled off so much that there was a rebound. Yeah. So when we saw the rebound effect in March, we were in a good market. It got the guts taken out of it, but now we're just back to people saying, you know what, let's get on with it. Interest rates 2%. And I'm not talking it up, but there's people making decisions right now with that extra migration we're getting coming out of Sydney. The tree changes and the sea changes are more prevalent than ever. Those tree changes as well, unbelievable.
But I just feel like every second person that I'm talking to, every single buyer or vendor that I'm talking to is having the sea change. And so it's either that they're moving, as I said, from the eastern suburbs over to the northern beaches. They're making that transition. Or I'm seeing Northern Beaches people that are moving further up the coast. And I keep hearing it over and over again. And then we speak with people like yourself. We've got some agent friends that are rural agents. They're reporting the same thing. My mum's just been up in Byron Bay and she said, Lise, you can't get your hands on anything. Everything is just being snapped up so quickly.
Yeah.
So we seem to be seeing this transition. And I don't think it's a trend, Mark. I think you're right. You know, and Mark.
Yeah, look,
people are able to work from home and it doesn't look like they're going to have to go back into the workplace. So it's like, go live wherever you like.
And I'll tell the hard reality, and I just want to say g'day to a couple of people. Jessica Lee, g'day. Rhys Wood, g'day. Ali Hammond, how are you? Jack Merlin, how are you? Paul Anthony, hey, how are you? Brooke Taylor, g'day.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for watching, everyone. But the hard reality is, Mark, that this is COVID's 5 years. So I don't care if people have got a vaccine. I don't care if the vaccine's on its way. It's delayed. It's here. At the end of the day, the world has changed. And what we're seeing is when people are making property moves, they're making property moves that are based on where they're at over the next 10, 20, 30 years. It's not a knee jerk. You don't go and pay 40 grand in stamp duty if there's not 5, 10 or 15 years certainty around it. So people are making these big moves. They're coming to cities like Newcastle. They're coming to cities like Northern Beaches. And they're making their investments long-term now due to what's happened to them in their world of COVID. So COVID, I don't know if I was saying to Lisa last night, I don't know if you remember, but everything the government projected when COVID started was 6 months. They were saying, over the next 6 months, this is where the issue is going to be. That's a bunch of crap because now we're at that 6 month anniversary. We're in the second, I call it this C2. C1 was the first wave. C2 is now the second wave. Yeah. There will be another wave, the C3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And even, at the end of the day, what we're seeing and what we wanted to speak with everyone about tonight is this trend or this pattern. It's not temporary.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. I was having a conversation just this afternoon, and then again on the weekend, you might have seen on social events, spending a bit of time with a few buyers agents lately, Jack Henderson from Police Associates in Sydney, and Henderson's Newcastle now, has always had a sort of a footprint in Newcastle, and he's like, timing is perfect. Newcastle's already had an underpinned market. You go back 4 cycles, so it's long enough to get good data on most markets.
How many cycles?
4.
4. Because data started getting good, like when you look at it, data started getting better in about the 80s. Like that's when real property data started collecting data. If you look pre-80s, there's a lot of stuff that's been lost, a lot of transactional history, very hard to get a good median curve. And you know that a median curve in a suburb that's only doing 50 or less transactions a year, it's not really worth watching the median. You've got to group suburbs together and talk about precincts. The Newcastle graph is very much nice and steady and then up, and then nice and steady and then up. There's none of this 4-2 stuff you see at the very inner city elite suburbs, because we're not driven by one market. We've got like 7 employment drivers that represent over 8% of wages. 7 employment drivers representing over 8% of wages. So 80% of our employment is split between 7 sectors, and then the rest of them make up other small ones. The advantage to that is that when something falls down, you've got what they call in Amazon server land redundancy. So it can chain over to another one. So it's not redundancy like employment redundancy. You've got something to fail safe. And there's another sector that spurs up and grows a bit more. Construction grows when hospitality pulls back. Hospitality pulls out, retail picks up, whatever it might be. So we're seeing that we've got an underpinned, strong employment market. We've got a lifestyle market. We've got affordability. We've got yields at the moment that are in the 4s when interest rates are in the 2s. Where it's unprecedented opportunity from even just an investment point of view, let alone a lifestyle point of view.
You know what I'm interested to know, Mark? Can the infrastructure there in an area like Newcastle, can they keep up with the demand?
Yeah.
Because when I think of Newcastle, I think of a beautiful place with a beautiful beach. And, I know you've got that, is it Mayweather?
Merriweather.
Sorry, Merriweather. I know that's sort of like the Ants Pants place. There's some great restaurants and cafes and places like that. But outside of that, does it have the infrastructure to keep up with the amount of people that are looking to move there?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I think if you had asked me that question in 2011, I think I would have been really struggling to put my name behind it was definitely going to happen. But back then there was a collection of people that overcame the resistance. There was a group of people, a smaller group, that were trying to really keep it the same. You know, keep it really, like you hear about these towns, you know, not in my backyard, no development, no this, no that. There was a heavy rail that used to cut off the harbour from the CBD. And that heavy rail was going back to sort of convict era and then mining days where they used to ship coal and take it right down to Nobbies. And the patronage on that heavy rail was so light. They had these big ugly wires over it. You couldn't cross over to the harbour. It was really quite an eyesore, and people who were coming from outside.
Yeah.
They thought bad things. Now it's been opened up. There's a $500 million light rail project that's completed. All the roads were upgraded at the time. The supercars were running through town for the finale each year. We've now got a university in the CBD, like an international centre building, a second one being on the old rail track, Nippon University, Japanese in town. And the development pipeline has been slow previously, not so much based on uptake, but things like mine subsidence approval, water table, speed of council. Now this development upsurge is just starting to buy up the apartments and the inner city lifestyle, which gives us a reason to spend more money extending these light rails.
When we were there, it must be 6 months ago, I reckon, a friend of ours was driving us around and there was so much developing going on. It was like everywhere just seemed like, you know, there was a lot of building going on there. You know, which is pretty incredible. I want to know about property prices too. I want to know. I want to know what they're sitting at.
And also, a big one is I'm not, with all due respect, it's not just about Northern Beaches or Newcastle.
No.
What I'm actually, and I think it's the wave that I'm more interested in.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, with why people are doing what they're doing. Are they doing what they're doing? Is it happening in other areas of New South Wales? That's the real juice that I think out there that's magic, and the lifestyle change and COVID and stuff like that. Because I know we can talk a lot about our beloved suburbs, but most importantly for anyone who's watching, if you've just clipped in, we're talking about a massive movement of what we're seeing people do. Yeah. I call it urbanisation.
Yeah.
So it's not the urbanisation that we've been used to the last 20 or 30 years where everyone's scurried into the CBD of Sydney, but now people are scurrying to the burbs. It's not just the burbs of the Northern Beaches, because we're definitely seeing an influx.
100%.
You're definitely seeing an influx.
Yeah.
But that urbanisation, it's bloody incredible what's happening. It's a big shift of money. It's a big shift of families. If there's stress, like Lisa's saying, on infrastructures, because a lot of these cities that people are moving into don't particularly have the infrastructure that my light just turned off. It's probably better.
You just got an instant suntan.
I just got a suntan.
That light just turned off.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But it is interesting. And, you know, the other thing is what we were saying before, Mark, is that, you know, people had to live based on where work was. You know, I know for us, a lot of friends who maybe wanted to live on the Northern Beaches were saying, look, I just don't have that infrastructure. You know, we didn't have the Beeline bus system, which is our double-decker bus system that we do now. That's something new over sort of the last year and a half. But previously, it was always like, oh, you know, I need to get into the CBD. How am I going to get into the CBD? Mark, I think you're covering our Instagram feed. So, you know, it was always tricky. Now people are saying, because of COVID, people are saying, I can live where I want to live. Yeah. I can live where I want to live. Because guess what? My office is now my lounge room, and I can zoom in to anywhere in the world. So, you know, that's pretty incredible. But this movement that we're seeing, and Mark, you're right in saying we're not suggesting for a moment that people are moving out of the Northern Beaches and all flocking to Newcastle. We're just interested in talking to an agent that's in one of those areas, like we are. We're in one of those areas where people are flocking here, and we're interested because we know that the same thing's happening there in Newcastle. I want to know about property prices.
And we're losing, because Mark, we're losing buyers to Newcastle. We're losing buyers to Country Town.
Yeah.
But
About this. Yeah.
we're winning people that are actually coming from Neutral Bay or Double Bay, or we're winning people that are coming from that core of the CBD, and they're coming here saying, I'm 30 minutes to an hour out of the CBD, but it's lifestyle and after because I work. So we're both sort of winning in this, but it's a massive,
there's a massive shift.
I've never seen it happen more.
No, me either.
And I've been an agent for 25 to 30 years. I've never seen such a migration. It's like the buffalo migrating.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Mark, I want to know, what's an average 3 to 4 bedroom house costing around there?
So we've sort of got ripple effects as you go out of the CBD. So our elite end of the market, I sold a penthouse recently that was what would sound like a lot of money, 5.45 million, which is the highest existing penthouse ever. That's on the beach, massive, 300 plus square meters.
That's a lot of money in anyone's book.
That's the upper end, right? But in that same suburb, like in eyeshot of that apartment, there's a 3-bedroom apartment, 1 car space for that one, 2 bathrooms in an old building overlooking the park with a view to the ocean for 750,000. So like
750,000.
That's Newcastle East. Like I'm talking 200 meters to the beach, less than right where all the cafes and restaurants are. So that's in the Essington building, right?
Okay. So the same thing here, just to give everyone that's watching an idea. So 3-bedroom, nice 3-bedroom apartment within walking distance to the beach in Newcastle, 750,000. The equivalent here on the Northern Beaches would be DY, would you say? Yep. A 2-bedroom apartment here in DY within walking distance to the beach. That's what you're going to get for similar money.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. Yeah. So there's definitely a ripple.
And you got Manly, which is probably
depends on the area, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. DY compared to Manly, there's probably another 30 to 40% difference in that. So that's probably now getting towards the 1-1, 1-2 for a 2-better there. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So is this sustainable? To wrap, is this sustainable? Is this going to keep happening? Are people going to keep urbanization? Is it going to continue? What do you reckon?
I reckon you're right about the 5-year thing. Like, even if there's put Newcastle aside, because we just said we do that. I spoke to a guy, Kane Beckett from Jerds. Now, Jerds are a renowned sort of vineyard estate seller. They do a lot of sort of hinterland property, beautiful acreage stuff, river frontage, all that. And it's still all within about an hour, 90 minutes of Newcastle, which is the second biggest city in New South Wales. So there's still properties that people will go to as either weekenders or they'll move out of Sydney. He's the busiest he's been in 20 years. And they're selling, like, usually vineyards, like people come out of Sydney or Melbourne or wherever, buy one, and then essentially they don't make any money and they sell them for the same price or sometimes even less many years later. That has not been the case here. There's been property selling around the vineyards, around these hinterland areas, up north, Port Stephens, Maitland, the Hunter, for 10-20% more than they were listed for a year ago and couldn't sell. And that was soft beforehand. So it's not like they're coming off a high. They're coming off something that had pulled back. But the days on market were previously like a year for some of these properties, 2 years. Yes. These are now selling in 6 weeks with competition. So
wow.
With that happening and the money coming in now, and the roads have got better, the Zoom lifestyle, driving a little bit, but staying in situ. As long as there's drivers, like there's shops nearby, there's education nearby, like the things that you have to be nearby, I think that's fine.
Did you just say Zoom lifestyle?
The Zoom lifestyle.
That's cool. But it's true. That's what it is. It's true, right? And the thing is,
I love it.
Can I just say, people don't make a move, Mark. They don't sell up their property in. And I'm saying, so here on the Northern Beaches, we're seeing people selling up in the east. We're seeing people selling up in areas like Castle Hill, Chatswood, Epping, St Ives. I've had a number of clients coming from St Ives moving into the Northern Beaches. Now, you're not doing that just to go, you know what, we'll just do this until COVID ends, and then a few months later we'll move back again. You're doing this forever, likely, right?
You're
for a decent part of your life, for yourself.
You're doing it for you. I think now
You're uplifting kids, schools, right?
People now are choosing, you do you better. You do you best.
Yeah.
People are now choosing themselves over their business more than ever. And whether it's been from, was it Zoom Lifestyle?
Zoom Lifestyle.
Zoom Lifestyle.
Because it's from Zoom Lifestyle, that decentralization, or, remote working. Yeah. It's also, there's probably a word that you can invent also, Mark, around employers being accepting of working from home. That's probably one of the biggest things, that it's that social, that commerce, e-commerce, or that commerce acceptance for people to work for.
It's a home employer. It's a home employer.
A home employer. You're like a wordsmith, Mark.
Wow.
Then you think Kenny KBMC came out.
What did you say? It's not an employer. It's a
home employer.
Home employer.
Wow. So home employers, Zoom Lifestyle. You do you, people choosing their lifestyle more and more and more.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a big movement for this. Watch this space, because we're going to look back in years to come and say, I can't believe how well that area is done or this area is done. And it's all based on these. I know we're mucking around with these words, but it's based around these words: the Zoom Lifestyle, the home employer, the you getting more out of life.
And, no one could see COVID coming, but we certainly didn't see this transition coming, right? Because if you looked in your crystal ball, if COVID was never a thing and you looked in your crystal ball, you'd think the buildings were going to get taller, the apartments were going to get smaller, right? This is the sort of lifestyle. There was going to be more transport, commuting people in and out faster.
Urbanisation.
Trains were getting faster. If you go to countries like Hong Kong, they've got these bullet trains that shoot through these Asian cities, moving people in and out of CBDs at lightning speed. That's the way we would have thought the future was going to look, but it's actually gone the complete opposite way. What are they going to do with the CBD? What are they going to do with these high rises? Are they going to turn them into apartments?
I think it's sort of going to adapt. And I think the thing is, this is Darwin's theory of evolution playing out perfectly. It's not the fittest, it's not the fastest, it's not the strongest, it's not the smartest. It's those that are quickest to adapt. And I spoke to a business owner that has just had a very successful exit to a very bigger company. They're in the employment sector, and they've got a prop tech arm and a HR sort of arm. And these guys had previously had more than 2,000 square metres in the Sydney CBD. They've re-leased, because they came up towards the end of their lease anyway. They've ended up with 1,100 square metres at half the square metre weight they had before, right? Now, these guys, there's like 6 or 8 people using this space. So they've turned their office into like all sorts of fun stuff. They got basketball, they got meeting rooms look like, But the people in the home employer situation, 83% of their staff have taken up a fitness program. 75% have taken up a new hobby that's increased their enjoyment levels on the surveys they do. These guys do surveys like super reg, because they're in that industry where it's all about satisfaction. Hobby, more productive. They've taken up a fitness program. They've said their happiness levels and their engagement with the family is better than ever. And guess what? They're getting more work done, and it's costing a lot.
They are, right? Because when you take travel out of the equation, you're going to be more productive. That's the reality of it. And I think right now it's adapting. People don't necessarily like change, but once they've adapted to the change, they realise how much they like it. I mean, we've got a 22-year-old daughter who got this fantastic job working for this PR marketing company, and then COVID hit. She was loving the culture, which she'd spent a week in it before she had to start working from home, and complained continuously for the last 3 or 4 months. But now she stopped complaining. She quite enjoys it, actually.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is society now.
Before we wrap it up, I just want to say g'day again and see if anyone's got any comments. Alvin, Caleb, Andy, Andrew, Paul, g'day, guys. We do have to wrap it up. We're right on the cusp of 8:30. What are the nuggets or the takeaways from me? And is something I read today, which was very, very cool.
Yeah.
It's okay to be okay.
Yep.
And I thought that is awesome, because what COVID has taught people, what I've watched from the outside, is everyone's just like pulled up the horse and said, hey,
Yeah.
slow down a little bit and say, are you okay? What do you really need? Anything? You know, do you really need more? Do you really need more? Or are you just okay because it's okay to be okay? So for me,
Yeah.
and I think that lifestyle, we're talking property, go north, Northern Beaches or Newcastle or even further, whatever you're doing, because we're seeing other people come from the south to the beaches from the city. Lise, what are your nuggets?
Definitely. Look, I think there's a lot of goodness out of this. I think initially, you know, when we were coming into COVID, everyone was like, this is horrendous. It's the end of the world. I think we've gotten used to this weird new normal. And as we adapt to this weird new normal, and I agree, Mark, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I don't know that a vaccine is going to be the end of this. I think people are going to realise, and they are starting to realise, that they're actually enjoying so many portions of this. And I'm not referring to places like Melbourne that are in complete lockdown, because Melbourne will get back on their feet to a certain extent. But I think people are starting to realise that they can move to places like the Northern Beaches and have an awesome quality of life. They can move to areas like Newcastle and Byron Bay and beyond, and live the life that maybe they've always dreamt of. And that can't be bad, right? Mark, what about you?
Yeah, well, you know, when we throw in the cool words like Zoom lifestyle, the home flow, the urbanisation, all of that still has an underpinning factor there that move is happening. But I think, you know, with 66% of Australia's wealth being in property, if that's the case, you've still got to have a look at the fundamental growth drivers in each of those areas, because it's fine to say, I'm going for the lifestyle I've always wanted. But if you go somewhere that's so far out that there's no town water, the electricity is difficult and all stuff like that, you may well find yourself off the grid and having a great time. But if you decide to change that down the track, there might not be a buyer for it, or it might not have gone up in value, or if the interest rates go up and you find yourself needing to sort of make some changes in life, I still think you've got to look at the fundamental growth drivers of areas, and things like employment diversity and abundance of employment are important. The geographical side of things, how far it is from a big city, so is it a satellite city or satellite region, and have a look at those other things like infrastructure, fixed infrastructure, education, the other things that have always driven it. Yeah, tourism's going to be different, retail's going to be different, but the underpinning ones there. So look, I think I've gained a lot from what you guys have said here today, and I agree. Newcastle's not the only place, but it's a bloody good one. So is the Northern Beaches.
100%. And not only that, we may just find, just wrapping up, that, you know, these cafes that maybe were in the CBD, that were in the big smoke, they may actually shut shop and open up in areas like the Northern Beaches and Newcastle.
Definitely happening.
Places where they actually require the infrastructure. Because I can only imagine, we went to Katoomba on the long weekend, going back whatever it was, 6 weeks ago, and it's pretty much. Yep. And, you know, I tell you what, we could not find anywhere to grab a coffee and have some lunch. Nice. Oh, my God.
Look at that.
Okay, what is that?
Skull candy.
What have you got? What's that part of your jacket there? Only you, Kempwell. Only you.
Yeah.
Skulls with the matching mask. I love it. I love it. You're a legend, Mark. Thank you so much.
Have a check out. I welcome anyone here. We'll go through the COVID compliance. You can check out East End and all of our inner city developments. The lake is beautiful. Come and enjoy the lifestyle. Thank you, guys. And
you guys have got a rocking office. I know you do. I know you do, because you guys have just finished doing a massive renovation. We'll be there to check it out. So yeah, congratulations on that as well.
Great message, everyone. Enjoy yourselves.
Have a great week, guys.
Your new COVID lifestyle. Make sure everyone's reevaluated what they're doing. It's a fantastic thing that what I'm watching, I'm witnessing everyone make massive changes to their lives like we've just spoken about. And congratulations to everyone who's doing it. Yeah,
absolutely. Have a great week, guys.
See you later.
Thank you,
Mr. Cantwell.
Take care.
Bye.
See ya.